Hello there. Welcome to Just the Discs. We talk about Blu-rays here and 4Ks, and we are often talking about older movies, and obviously that's something that's near and dear to me, but of course I like new movies as well. I don't get as many of them on physical media. I do tend to buy things digitally sometimes for newer stuff. So there's some things I don't have a physical disc to review. But lately I've been trying to, pick up some things, get some things that are newer on some form of physical media. And in this case, I have a DVD and a Blu-ray because in the case of the first movie, as far as I know, it's only gotten a physical release on DVD. And that is Between the Temples. This new movie with Jason Schwartzman and Carol Kane. And so I just watched both of these movies today. So they're very fresh. This was one I was definitely curious about when I saw the trailer. It is a film that is directed by Nathan Silver, and co-written by C. Mason Wells, Chris Wells. And I don't know that I've seen any of their other work, although I'm aware of Chris Wells as a writer. Actually, you know what? I have seen he co-wrote a script for Quiet City that Aaron Katz directed, which I saw on a Vinegar Syndrome partner label Blu-ray last year or the year before, and really enjoyed that, actually. He also wrote The Color Wheel for Alex Ross Perry. He wrote LOL for Joe Swanberg. So he had sort of a mumblecore writer, roots, but he's also a film programmer, a friend of mine, actually. So this one I was intrigued by right out of the gate because, I'm a big Jason Schwartzman fan, and I have been since 1999, when I think a lot of us were converted when we saw him in Rushmore. And, since he's continued to work consistently with Wes Anderson, but with some other directors as well, and I always tend to enjoy him as a performer. And so I saw this trailer, and I'm very curious how they sell it on very, very sparse. This is a Sony Pictures Classics DVD release. But the film, I believe, is independently produced. But so very sparse in terms of the back here. It says a grief-stricken cantor, Jason Schwartzman, and the cantor is the person who sings during Jewish temple gatherings. Like, basically, he's off to the side as the rabbi speaks. Cantor is supposed to sing. He's in a crisis of faith and finds his world turned upside down when his grade school music teacher, Carol Kane, re-enters his life as his new adult bat mitzvah student. The two forlorn souls develop a special connection in this unorthodox comedy by Nathan Silver. So yeah, she sort of stumbles into his life when he ends up at a bar. So he's lost his wife just the year prior in a really sad and tragic way, but apparently she was an alcoholic novelist, and so he's still got her book around, and that sort of becomes a thing. But so he has lost his ability to sing, or he doesn't feel like he can sing anymore. And as a cantor, that's what you're supposed to do. And so he feels like he should be fired, but the rabbi he works for isn't going to fire him. So anyway, he goes out to a bar one night, and there's a couple on a date behind him, and he's, I think he's still got a lot of his garb on from the temple, so he's got his yarmulke and stuff like that, and they're just making fun of him, and so loudly that he can hear them, and he's had like a really bad night, and so he kind of gets up to go over and talk to the guy who's making fun of him, and he just won't get out of the guy's face because he's had a bad string of things happen. He lives with his two moms, and he's just not in a great way at this time. So he ends up getting punched in the face by this guy in the bar and knocked down. And Carol Kane's character sees him and picks him up, and they sort of start talking, and then this bat mitzvah thing develops, and they seemingly start to fall for each other. Meanwhile, the rabbi has a daughter about his age, maybe, or maybe younger, that's going to be in town, and he's sort of hinting that maybe he keeps saying like she's a mess, so he's not really selling her very well. And there's a lot of that kind of comedy in the movie. I mean, it's definitely more comedy than drama, but there's a decent amount of drama as well. So when the daughter finally shows up, then it becomes a thing of like, oh, maybe he'll get involved with her. And there's some really, really awkward scenes in this movie where, like, we at some point Carol Kane's son and his wife and their daughters show up, and there's a thing of like, what's going on here? And they have a dinner scene that's just goes on a long, awkward time, and it's your mileage may vary as to whether or not that kind of scene is funny to you, or at some point it just becomes unbearable. And but I love Schwartzman in this kind of role, and I love Carol Kane, one of our great actors ever, and she's as good as she ever was in this, and they both are interesting in this way. It's not quite like a Harold and Maude kind of thing, but it's I would imagine maybe there's some influence taken from that. I don't know, but I just like Schwartzman is this kind of sad sack. I just kind of enjoy that kind of performance from him, and so he does a nice job with it here. And so definitely one that's worth seeing. And this DVD actually includes a commentary track from writer-director Nathan Silver, Carol Kane, and Jason Schwartzman, which is great to have all of them involved. So there is a reason to continue with physical media. Yes, it's a DVD only, but you get a commentary, which typically doesn't show up as part of the features on a digital version. Okay, so another 2024 movie is DIDI. And this one I'd seen some trailers for. Actually, they ran this trailer quite a bit in the AMC where I go to. So I had seen the trailer a bunch. I knew it was a period piece. I knew it's from 2008. And another one where I'm curious, like very simple sell. This is a Universal Blu-ray. In 2008, during the last month of school of summer before the high school begins, an impressionable 13-year-old Taiwanese American boy, Isaac Wang, learns what his family can't teach him: how to skate, how to flirt, and how to love your mom. Again, that's a very basic plot synopsis, but the character of Chris, aka Wang Wang, he goes through some rough stuff here. And this is a coming of age story, but it's not like, I mean, there are some happy moments, but there's a lot of, I guess, what I would call real moments where things don't go your way, real moments where you don't say the right thing and it spirals out of control into something incredibly awkward. And as awkward as the dinner scenes in Between the Temples is, there's some very awkward scenes in this too. But the basic idea is that he has a couple things. He's got a group of friends that he hangs with, but they're starting to see these girls, and maybe they don't see him as quite the cool wingman. I don't know, not even wingman, but guy to have around during that stuff. And then there's a girl that he has a crush on who, is maybe a little more ready to be in a physical place than he is, and maybe he doesn't handle that sort of thing very well. And so there's a lot of and then on top of that, he's living at home with his mother, played by the great Joan Chen, longtime actor, and they're living with the grandmother as well, and the father is off in either another country or another city, sometimes sending money, but I think they're estranged in a way. And his older sister lives with him, and she's about to go off to college, and so they have their own conflicts and their own emotional dramas, if you will. So that dynamic alone is interesting. But the brother and sister are pretty disrespectful, and the grandmother is often on the case of the mom. Like why do you let them be so disrespectful, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a thing. And on top of that, then you have another sort of sub thread where on the cover here, you can see Chris is with 3 other dudes, and it's these skater kids that he sort of encounters. And he's one of those characters that's kind of lost, and he's sort of looking for a place to fit in. And so when they say they're looking for a filmer, a shooter, if you will, in terms of shooting their videos, he says he can do it, even though he can't. Like, he's never done it before. But he has a camera, or, so he feels like he could try it. And, so that can go sort of, and then he maybe starts hanging out with them. But it's all in the milieu of 2008. So you have flip phones and Facebook, old Facebook, in it, what is it? AOL Instant Messenger, if you remember that. That's a lot of how the film is communicated. There's actually some great moments of just like, oh no, don't do that, or don't write that in this, where you have a character on the I keep wanting to say Ain't It Cool, but AOL Messenger, and there's like MySpace is there. Remember when you could put a song in your profile, and that becomes sort of a plot point. A lot of that stuff is involved, and so it's going to really ring nostalgically for people who were younger around this time. I was a little older, but I certainly was aware of Messenger and Facebook and MySpace and all those things. But they didn't play quite as key a role as they play for him in this movie. So it's a really nice nostalgic look back. It's kind of crazy that it's only, 18 years? No, sorry, 12 years, I guess. Wait, I can't do math right now, folks. But it's not 20 years ago, and it's nuts how the technology has changed and how social media has changed and what he's dealing with. But he's ultimately kind of a sad kid, and it's a movie about a lot of his struggles and the victories that he may or may not be able to find. And it's just about these moments of frustration and these moments of trouble that he's going through. So I see why a lot of folks dug it. It's definitely a movie that I think will appeal to you, again, if you're of that age, or you like coming of age stories that aren't necessarily happy all the time, but maybe have moments of that. So it's got a real, I saw it said in somewhere, it's got a real lived in feel. And I responded to that, definitely. It also has not much in the way of features, but it has a making of that's about 13 minutes long. That's, interviews with the cast and crew and stuff. So if you're looking for some, relatively independent feeling newer films to watch from this year, again, I know I don't talk about these that much, but these two are definitely worth your time and definitely worth checking out. So just wanted to throw out a quick review of those two. Thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.